The Detroit Tigers take 2 of 3 from the Dodgers in what was a pretty darn good weekend. We'll talk about that and more all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Tuesday, July 16th, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Tigers is brought to you by Booking.com. Yeah, the right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. Check out Booking.com for your stay today. Welcome in, welcome all, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Happy All-Star Game Day. Home Run Derby obviously was Monday night, and now today is the All-Star Game. We will talk about Tarik Skubal not getting the start at the end of the show. But first things first, we have a very, very important, not home, by the way, for those watching on YouTube, down south visiting family. So a little bit of a different look for you there. All those plates are actually like firsts and famous things that happen in Detroit and Michigan. So yeah, kind of bringing it all back. We're on theme still. All right. So we have a great series against the Dodgers to go over. And I know that we talked about potentially waiting until even later in the week and really doing a lot of draft coverage. I think it's probably fair to hold off on rounds 3 through 20. We can kind of do those all in one group later in the week. We have all week still, right? The Tigers don't play again until the weekend. So we have all week to talk about that, and we will certainly get back to that. But I don't want to wait any longer and not talk about and keep pushing off this fantastic series against the Los Angeles Dodgers, who were in town this past weekend. The Tigers take 2 of 3. They lose 3-4 in the first ball game on Friday. Then you have an 11-9 crazy ball game, maybe the game of the year, on Saturday, and then a 4-3 win for the Tigers on Sunday as they head into the All-Star break. That is 2 of 3 from the Dodgers, and they go into the All-Star break with a 47-50 record. What went right? Everything. My mental health. It's probably not good that it rides so much on the success and the ebbs and flows of this baseball team. But how can you not just absolutely love every single aspect of this series, other than like maybe blowing Friday? We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. Like, Friday was winnable. Like, you were that close to a sweep. You were that close to sweeping the Dodgers. And I think it's important to note that I'm not trying to, downplay it or say that it's not impressive or anything. And I don't really care who we play. I don't care if it's the White Sox or the Phillies. Like, I'm going to take a series win 10 times out of 10. But the Dodgers are a really, really good team, albeit hurt. They have a ton of pitching injuries. They also just sent Bobby Miller down to the minors. He's been struggling mightily. Obviously, Mookie Betts, one of those who's injured, et cetera. They have a long list of injuries. That is still a phenomenal baseball team, even with all of the injuries. And I know you get to like Kevin Biggio there batting 8 or 9 in some of those games. And like, he's not hasn't had a very good season and whatnot. But like that top 2/3 of the lineup, it still goes toe to toe with most teams in baseball, even without Mookie Betts. And I really just don't care. Like, you're just not going to be able to rain on my parade when it comes to beating the Dodgers in a 3-game set. I'm going to be pretty darn pumped about it. I really don't care how injured or whatnot. This is a team that has one of the better records in baseball, and the Tigers took 2 of 3 from them. So that went right. Just the series as a whole, the weekend as a whole, albeit with the loss on Friday, still just a lot went right. And that's really, really exciting against a good ball club. The offense was solid. Again, not their A rotation, certainly. A lot of pitching injuries specifically for this Dodgers team, but the Tigers have been dominated against, and much far worse pitchers out there have shoved against your Detroit Tigers. Again, I don't really care. I'm not going to complain or I don't know, like qualify success. And the offense was pretty solid this week, and obviously had the big explosion on Saturday. But even, I mean, 3 runs and 4 runs on Friday and Sunday isn't incredible. But again, I think that's more of a testament just how low the bar is. We're not asking for a high-powered super offense. We're just asking to give the pitching a little bit of help. And you saw you can play really good teams pretty close when you can. Individually, I mean, Colt Keith. Look, we can talk about a lot of other players later. We can talk about the rest of the offense later if we want, but it may be happening. He on Saturday goes 3 for 4 with 4 RBIs. The game-tying home run, it was on a fastball up and in. He pulled it and cranked it. It might be happening. Now, it's a 93, 92 mile an hour cutter up and in. It's, he didn't turn on 99 up in the zone. I don't really care. Reoccurring theme early on. He turned on a fastball up and in and deposited it into right field for a game-tying home run. Absolutely awesome. One of the coolest moments of the entire, not only easily the coolest moment of the weekend, one of the coolest moments of the season, if not the coolest moment of the season. And he was not only hitting the ball this weekend and hitting fastballs all weekend, he was hitting them off of lefties. He got an opportunity to hit against some left-handed pitching and did well. His OPS going into the All-Star break, or now that I guess that we're at the All-Star break, is now over 700, and the batting average is over 250. And I know that, like, on paper, you look at that and you go, okay, that's like pretty average, middle-of-the-road numbers. You got to remember this dude was one of the worst hitters in baseball in the month of April, right? Statistically, like numbers-wise. It's some of the lowest OPS and average numbers in the entire sport the first 6 weeks of the season. And since then has been absolutely mashing outside of like a week in June, the beginning of June. 4 or 5 games he struggled. Outside of that, since the beginning of May, this dude has been hitting and seeing the ball really, really, really well. This is why you didn't send him down early, right? This is why. He needed to adjust, and we talked about it so much. And it was such a point of tension on this show. This is exactly why you do not send him down to the minor leagues when he was struggling. He needs to adjust to major league pitching. He would have hit 900 and learned nothing in AAA. Now, he's crushing in the majors. I'm so happy. It might be happening. It might. I want to see more success against fastballs. And when I say it's like, obviously he's crushing the baseball. That I'm kind of saying that half facetiously, right? Like I think that there is even more of an explosion to be had when he starts pulling fastballs. I've said that a million times. I don't need to bore you with that anymore. But he is on some type of heater right now. And this is why he was extended before his debut. This is why so many people in the Detroit media like circles were so excited about this guy. And it brings a tear to my eye that he is hitting as well as he is. Truly. I mean, I'm so happy. It's been so many years of just thinking about like, man, when Colt Keith gets to the majors, I'm really pumped for that. It's one of the best pure hitting prospects. He obviously he's had his struggles defensively and whatnot. Pure hitter. He's one of the best pure hitting prospects we've had in my entire lifetime. And seeing him finally come around and finally adjust to major league pitching and start doing damage is just beautiful. Colt Keith, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. Okay, let's keep the ball rolling. Got a lot more to talk about. I spent way too much time drooling over Colt Keith's production on the field. We'll keep the ball rolling, though, right after this. Going to talk to you today about our friends over at FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much, and I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer and fewer games, and the sports just aren't sportsing like we want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everybody every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Also got to tell you all about our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is so much fun, and they are also some of the best in the business. They are America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports because unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can get in on all the daily action with your friends, become a part of the Prize Picks community, and of course, win big. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with just 4 correct picks. You pick more or less on certain player stats. Starting pitching strikeouts, always a really fun one. There's going to be some doozies on there for the All-Star game, so be sure to check out Prize Picks today. Download the app. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate you all for tuning in. As always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. And we will, of course, be back tomorrow. We got some more draft stuff to go over. Want to do some, at the All-Star break, where's the team stand stuff, looking ahead at what I want to see out of the second half. We'll start our trade conversations. We got a heck of a week ahead of us, despite the fact that the Tigers do not play. Also, be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today, the free 24/7 streaming channel, available on YouTube or for free in the Amazon Fire TV channels app. So talked about what went right, and we still have a lot more. This was a fantastic weekend. We have so much more to go over and just get really excited about. This is, man, what a great weekend. What a fantastic weekend of baseball. So we talked a lot about Colt Keith. Gio Urshela, obviously, with the walk-off home run. He's been swinging a hot stick lately. That OPS creeping up into the mid-600s. Ooh. But for real, I mean, he's a guy that no matter what his numbers are and how long, I mean, I think at one point he went like 75 ABs without an extra base hit or something ridiculous. Like there's not a lot of pop there. Kind of funny can see hit the walk-off homer and had a double in that game as well down the line. Look, at a minimum, this guy's going to put the bat on the ball. And I think that there is a place for that on major league teams. It's just a matter of how valuable he ends up being in the long run. I think that the better he plays, this is going to be shocking to you, the better it is for the Tigers, not on the field, because that's the obvious part of that statement, but it gives them a little bit more flexibility at the deadline as well. If they keep him and he's hitting well, then there you go. Or having him play well enough to have some trade value is never a bad thing, even if they don't end up moving him. Just good to throw more hats in the ring there. So, he's been swinging a hot stick, and obviously hats off to that walk-off. I mean, if it landed, there's no one in the outfield. They did the, whatever it was, 5 infielder strategy, but really cool to see, no less. Riley Green continues to be incredible. His average is now over 270, and the OPS is just under 870. We talked about it a lot. If you just look outside of the month of May, this dude is like a borderline 300 hitter and has an OPS over 900. He just struggled in May. And a lot of other people struggled in June. It's like everybody picked 1 month to be awful in. And now it finally looks like we're seeing, and we're only halfway through, and it's like a 15-game sample size, but we're seeing what happens when not everybody, or when everybody decides to have not their worst month of the year at different times, like periodically. Like there's still some guy. This lineup is not, the murderer's row. Like, I'm not trying to convince you that this is some high-powered juggernaut of an offense, but it is still much better than it was in June, and that's at least exciting. We'll talk about kind of the outlook of July as a whole here a little bit later on. I want to give a shout out to Zach McKinstry, man. I don't know about his future with the team. I still have a hard time believing that he's going to finish the year out on the major league roster. He's just hitting so poorly, and we're starting to see some errors in the field on top of that. But how can you not love the emotion and the passion that he showed this weekend on Saturday, especially, or on Sunday rather, whatever day that was, where he slid into third base and got all fired up. I mean, how can you not love that? Fire up Chips, went to school here. Just, again, no matter what happens going forward with Zach McKinstry, I will always appreciate the passion that he played with, man, and the versatility and whatnot that he brought to this clubhouse. Again, I don't know. I have a hard time believing he makes it through September, but golly, that fired me up. I was yelling back at the TV. Yeah. Oh man, just what a weekend. What a weekend. I feel like I'm just saying that over and over again, but genuinely, like, I'm so excited. I thought it was such a fantastic product and just really exciting times there down at Comerica Park. Ryan Vilade called up for Akil Baddoo before the weekend, and Vilade had a pretty solid outing, had a couple of hits on, I believe it was Saturday's game. So that's great, man. Like, Baddoo just didn't have it. Like, I still think that there is a solid everyday Major League Baseball player in Akil Baddoo, and I still think that he has a lot of tools that some team will take a chance on. Maybe it's even still the Tigers going forward, but I mean, just the hitting has just completely gone away. He just the bat to ball skills are just really, he's struggling a lot with just simply putting the bat on the ball, period, on a remotely consistent basis. And Ryan Vilade had a lot less issues doing that and kind of controlled the zone decently well too, was taking a lot of pitches outside and whatnot. Kind of liked what I saw from him. So I'd imagine he will stay for the foreseeable future until Parker Meadows is back. Probably Carson Kelly continues getting some knocks, man. Like, having a catcher in the middle of the lineup is such a plus that not a lot of teams have, and just like historically, not even like in the modern day of baseball, just period in baseball history, heart of the order catchers are few and far between. There's some exceptions, obviously, but that's such an advantage when you get a lot of offense out of the catcher position. So Carson Kelly, he has absolutely played his way onto being a hot commodity and a very, very probably what's going to be talked about name as we head into the trade deadline. And again, keep him or move on from him. That gives you, like, when a player is doing well and it is a conversation, we'll talk about this a little bit more later, like that's good. Whether you trade them or not, like, okay, you hold on to a good player or you trade someone with, when their value's at their highest. It's always better when people play well. And, breaking news here, again, putting on my Captain Obvious hat. And then Andy Ibanez continues to rake against lefties. It's the funniest thing ever. I love it. I love Andy Ibanez. To be completely honest, that dude is just a gamer. Like, just a guy. It doesn't matter what position you play. It doesn't matter what role. He could be hitting 1. He could be hitting 9. He could be pinch hitting. It doesn't matter. He is locked the F in, dog. Like, at all times, Andy Ibanez is absolutely locked in. I get fired up talking about Andy Ibanez. That's a dude that love of the game just oozes out of him. I love it. I love everything about Andy, and what a weapon he has become off of lefties. Like, what a legitimate weapon and like important role he has on this roster now. Just absolutely awesome. And then Tarik Skubal started this weekend, 6 innings, 2 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. The command wavered a little bit as he got later in the ballgame. I think he also got a little fastball heavy, which is not something I usually say because his fastball is so good that, like, even if he is fastball heavy, who cares? Like, he can just still blow it past people and get swings and misses. The Dodgers are a little bit of a different beast and they were able to put the bat on the ball there. And I'll tell you what, I was beyond frustrated on Friday and a little bit Sunday, but we won that game. So I guess maybe that's probably the only reason why. What a bunch of BABIP all over the place from the Dodgers, man. And like, part of that's just being like professional hitters and being able to put the bat on the ball. I'm not discrediting the Dodgers. They're the pinnacle of how you want to run an organization, development and spending money, right? But just a whole lot of just bloopers all over Tarik Skubal. It pissed me off beyond belief. But that first time and a half through the lineup, that's some of the best Tarik Skubal we've seen all season. And him not being the all-star starter is an absolute joke and an atrocity. And we'll talk about that right after this. Oh, that was going to be a smooth transition, but I can't find the button. Okay. Going to talk to you all today about our friends over at Booking.com. With hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com, you might just find your perfect stay even in your baseball rival's city. Look, a Tigers fan can go down to to Cleveland. Have a great time. I love going to Cleveland. I love going to ball games in Cleveland. Obviously, I'm going to be rooting for the Detroit Tigers, though. Love going up to Minnesota. Target Field, fantastic. Kansas City, beautiful ballpark. Just a lot, even the South Side, right? We'll just give love to everybody. There's a lot of fun parts of the country that happen to be rivals of the Detroit Tigers. So use booking.com to check them out. And because they give you so many choices across the U.S. for your summer travel this Major League Baseball season, the right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, again, even your rivals. So book today on booking.com on the site or in the booking.com app. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate you all for tuning in as always. So talking about what went right, I think we covered everything. Let's talk about what went wrong. Friday as a whole was just kind of a frustrating loss. Like you could have swept the Dodgers. you were that close. You were that close to sweeping the Dodgers. And again, there's only a couple things that went wrong. Like I'm not going to find too much to complain about taking 2 of 3 from LA. But you could have swept there. You really could have. And again, between BABIP and really the biggest thing was the Tigers went 1 for 12 with runners in scoring position on Friday. So as much as I can complain about bad luck and whine and cry, like some people say I do, they went 1 for 12 with runners in scoring position. And that you don't deserve to win too many ball games in which that's the case. Defense all weekend, didn't love it, to be completely honest with you. I think Colt Keith looked better. That's kind of like the only really highlight defensively I have. Matt Vierling, especially when he played third base, rough, man. I long for the days in which, when we have an everyday third baseman again. And this isn't just like me picking on Vierling, like specifically, just in general. Like Andy Ibanez has made errors over there. Vierling did not look sharp there all weekend, made a couple of really bad plays in that one game. Was that Friday or Saturday? Just in general, man, I just want an everyday starting third baseman. And Jace Young's been hitting well, but apparently by a lot of people's input, looks pretty rough on the defensive side of the ball. So that's very frustrating as well. We've seen how much Harris will keep a player down because their defense is poor, right? Malloy should have come up last year if it was just up to offense, but he had a pretty solid weekend as well. So we'll see what happens there, but just I didn't really like the defense at all this weekend. Pitching to Ohtani on Friday was a big controversy, and I think some people have kind of forgot about it or let it slide because they ended up taking 2 of 3, but you're really between a rock and a hard place there as a manager, because I understand what AJ was trying to do. I understand he's trying to go Holton. He's trying to go lefty-lefty. He doesn't want to face a righty in that situation. But at the same time, Shohei Ohtani is Shohei Ohtani. And there are a lot of splits that support what AJ did. Ohtani's numbers in general with runners in scoring position have not been very good really at all this year. So putting a lefty on the mound and putting him in that situation, you hope. It was also a horrible pitch. We can complain about AJ all we want. Tyler Holton, who I love and is one of the only relievers on this team that I've somewhat trusted lately, doesn't matter. That was a brutal pitch. That was a sinker that sunk into the barrel of the bat. So I again, like I'm going to take 2 of 3. I understand that you would have been in a better position had that not happened, obviously, and intentionally walking around Ohtani and whatnot, or pitching to Ohtani and intentionally walking to get to him. Again, certainly decisions. And then again, they did it with Freddie Freeman as well. Like really just wanted the lefty up. I get it. I get the frustration, but I wasn't too broken up about the decision in the moment. A lot of people were really upset. It's tough. It didn't work. So obviously he's going to get heat for it and he deserves to get heat for it. You just didn't walk the highest paid player of all time and decided to pitch to him. And, it didn't work out. And that's going to be, you're going to have to face the music on that one for AJ. So again, I think he deserves some questioning there, but at the same time, I wasn't too heartbroken in the moment. That was a bad pitch and Ohtani is really good. Other things that went wrong. Mark Canha, Javi Baez injuries. I thought Canha actually swung the bat well for the first time maybe since May. Before he sandwiched in between. He didn't play at the end of last week, and then because of an injury, and then he came back swung really well, caught up to some velocity, hit the ball really hard, was driving the ball. I was like, oh, good. He just needed a couple of days off to, get his body back. And then leaves the game early on whatever that was, Saturday or Sunday. And now we're right back to where we started, which is great. And then Javi gets hurt, gets removed from the game as well. I believe it's the same game that Mark Hanna got pulled from. So not awesome. We've seen what shortstop looks like without Javi. This isn't an advocate for Javi being incredible by any stretch. He's obviously that's an atrocity of a contract, it looks like, for the Tigers. But when people always ask, oh, could it get any worse? Yeah, if you watched how shortstop produced while Javi was out, yes, it can. So I think it's still probably in the Tigers' best interest for him to be healthy. Keider Montero. We talked about this earlier in the last week. That is, like, this is going to happen. He's not going to be lights out immediately, but he needs to develop against MLB hitting. This is a very similar conversation to what I said about Colt Keith early on in the season when he was struggling, right? Like, this is a guy whose stuff is major league ready. It's just about attacking hitters, how to attack hitters, right? We talk about that slider and curveball being two separate pitches and how important that is for him, and not kind of like Matt Manning used to have a slider and a curveball, and then they kind of mixed and morphed into one, and he had to relearn both of them kind of thing. It was this weird whole thing. I want those to be separate. I want how he attacks fastball hitters with fastballs up in the zone to maintain as well. I really like that. But the biggest thing is just command. His command is all over the place still. And when he's on, you see the flashes. But when he's off, you don't. And we've seen that with a couple of young pitchers throughout the years. Tarik Skubal used to go through the same thing. Reese Olson went through the same thing. And I'm not saying he's going to be as good as either of them necessarily. Certainly not putting him and comparing him to Tarik Skubal, but I do think that he is at a point now where, like, sending him back to AAA, I don't think would be too beneficial. I want to see him up here. I want to see him against Major League hitting, and I hope that post Mize getting off the injured list, that he is able to actually remain on the Major League roster and isn't booted for Maeda, who we will talk about here in a second. Bullpen, swings and misses. This is the end of what went wrong here. Chafin and Faedo are the only guys that can really get swings and misses out of this bullpen on a consistent basis. And that's why they're getting higher and higher leverage situations. Chafin has had a really good last month. He had a really good April, then a horrible May and a lot of June, first half of June, and then has been really good again the last 3 or 4 weeks. So that's really good to see. And then Faedo's kind of been a wild card, but you need swing and miss stuff out of the bullpen. You need it. It's not it'd be nice, or you need pitchers that can get swings and misses out of the pen. And this team doesn't have any on a consistent basis. And that's a huge problem. And that's why you see Chafin and Faedo get increased opportunities there. Let's talk Kenta Maeda. Kenta Maeda absolutely looks phenomenal. This is obviously not what went wrong. This should have been what went right. I must have skipped over it because it found its way into stuff, which was not my intention. This is absolutely something that went wildly right. Kenta Maeda looked like a completely different pitcher on the mound this weekend. He comes out of the bullpen and starts throwing 94. I'm sorry. What? 90 what? 94 miles an hour from Maeda. Look, if he ends up being a reliever, is he going to be worth the money you gave him? That's a pretty expensive multi-inning, non-high leverage reliever. Okay, admittedly, it absolutely is. If you can get any value for him at this point, whether it's in the rotation or not, you take it. You take it and you run and you be happy about it. And so it's one outing. I'm not declaring him back. I'm not saying that this is guaranteed gonna stick and gonna be a reoccurring thing. But objectively, that is the best he has ever looked in a Tigers uniform. It's not even really close. The splitter works so much better when he's facing velocity. The fastball in general is just so much better when it's higher velocity. Shocking, I know. The slider plays so much better as a third option with the increased velocity, because people have to sit on fastball more and can't wait for that ball to get deep into the zone. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I said that I didn't think he was going to transition to the bullpen very well. If this is what he's going to look like, I am absolutely going to be wrong, and I will happily be wrong. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll see what they do with him post All-Star break, because I am curious as to what he has to do to earn a rotation spot back. So we can have that conversation maybe after he gets a few more outings under his belt. Continuing the stuff category, this is going to be a longer show. I apologize. Tigers are 9-4 in July. That's the second best record in baseball. The best being the 9-3 Boston Red Sox, tied for the most wins in baseball in the month of July. And that is absolutely awesome. They're now 3 games under 500, 47-50. Look, there's still a lot of varying opinions on what you do at the deadline and whatnot, especially with how well they've been playing lately. We can talk about that more as we get closer to the deadline. We'll see how things shake out. If they go on a cold streak, then the decision becomes a lot easier. As it stands right now, I think they're still going to sell, right? Unless they continue this hot streak and they will themselves to back over 500. That's like the earliest I would consider being like, oh, like maybe they won't, right? If they're under 500, they're going to sell. Do it. Force the front office to feel pressure, because that's something that I don't think that the new front office has felt much of yet. Make the front office have to make them uncomfortable, make them have to make an impossible decision, or at least a really, really tough decision, right? Force the hand. Make this front office wildly uncomfortable and have to face the music for selling because you guys have done nothing but win. That would be awesome. That'd be awesome. I'm still reluctant to think it's going to happen. We've seen a lot of not great baseball this year by this team. But you've been one of the best teams in baseball in July. Keep winning. Bless you boys, baby. Just win. Nothing bad comes from winning. Okay? No matter what they end up doing at the deadline, you can make this a lot more of an uncomfortable conversation for a lot of important people if you keep winning. And I would love nothing more than to have those uncomfortable conversations because you kept winning. Do it. Why not? Saturday, the vibes in general are just absolutely awesome. You had a sold-out crowd pretty much all weekend. A lot of that for Ohtani, as he does, but the huge comeback, just incredible vibes. For a season that has had a lot of downs and some ups too at the start of the year, obviously, and a lot more lately. And for you just see on weekends like that, like this city is just dying for someone that's halfway decent. Not even like a superpower, right? Just a halfway decent baseball team would just blow the roof off of this town, and no one deserves it more. I loved it. I loved every second of it. I love this team, this stupid, dumb, awesome team. And it's weekends like this that really you feel it. You feel it a lot. This city's love for the Tigers is unbelievable. All-Star break is where we're at. Home Run Derby on Monday night, All-Star game on Tuesday. Today, obviously, Tarik Skubal is not going to be the All-Star game starting pitcher. Corbin Burnes named the All-Star game starter. Absolute joke. It's a joke. It's ridiculous. I even want to use the word embarrassing, to be completely honest with you. I think it is absolutely criminal. And is it like the biggest deal in the world? Like when you go into the Hall of Fame, are people like, oh, when you started this many All-Star games? Like, not really. But it would just be nice to get some recognition for a change. For a team and an organization that has been really bad for the better part of a decade, it would just be nice to give any sort of recognition of like the good players we do have. And Tarik Skubal is, if he's not the best pitcher in baseball, is darn close to being the best pitcher in baseball. And when you line him up and compare him side by side to Corbin Burnes, there is zero justification for this. I love watching the Orioles. This is not like me hating on Baltimore or anything. I love Camden. I love the Orioles organization. I love watching them play baseball. Adley Rutschman is one of my favorite players. I love their fan base. I can't say enough things to justify or prove the fact that I don't just hate the O's. This is just a joke. It's really, really stupid, and it's annoying. And it's Detroit versus everybody, baby. I hate it. What a joke, man. Hopefully Skubal plays. Hopefully he gets the pitch. Whatever. We'll take some wins on the other half of the break instead, I guess. Then you have Toronto this weekend. We'll preview that series later on in the week as probably Friday's episode because they play on Friday. So we will do that then. Thank you for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will be back tomorrow. As always, I appreciate everybody for all the support of the show, as always. And I'm sorry. I had some people voice frustration about me doing the Dodgers show today and not Sunday and whatnot. Like we had to do the draft stuff when we did. I apologize. I wasn't trying to make anybody wait. I tried to, I tried to read the room and give what I know the listeners want every day. You are the reason that I am in this position. So I tried my best. I'm really sorry if I made you wait an extra day there and that was frustrating, or if you really want to get hyped up on Monday morning and I did not provide, I'm sorry. But hopefully I can help with your Tuesday. All right. I appreciate you all greatly. For real. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. Catch y'all tomorrow, baby. Go Tigers.